If you ask the people who actually saw him drive, not journalists, not historians, but mechanics, engineers, and rival drivers, they will tell you something deeply uncomfortable. Tommy Byrne wasn't just fast, he was terrifyingly fast. An Irish force of nature from Dundalk, raw and unfiltered, with a driving style that looked reckless from the outside but somehow always worked when it mattered. Eddie Jordan, a man who built careers by spotting talent before the rest of the paddock caught up, once said something that still shocks motorsport insiders. Forget Schumacher, forget Senna. Tommy Byrne was better than all of them. That isn't nostalgia or exaggeration. It's the assessment of someone who watched Byrne extract speed from machinery that had no right to be competitive, let alone victorious. And yet the record books tell a brutally different story. 5 Formula One entries, 2 race starts, 0 points. While Ayrton Senna became a global icon and Michael Schumacher built a billion-dollar legacy, Tommy Byrne vanished from the top tier of the sport almost as quickly as he arrived. So what happened? Was he unlucky? Was he reckless? Or was he proof that Formula One has never rewarded talent alone? The truth is more uncomfortable than any single explanation. Born with speed, not privilege. In the early 1980s, junior single-seater racing was ruthless. There were no structured academies, no billion-dollar driver programs, and very little protection for those without money. Talent opened doors, briefly, but money and connections decided how long they stayed open. Tommy Byrne arrived with nothing except speed, no major sponsors, no wealthy family, no political backing. He slept in vans, borrowed money, and drove whatever machinery he could afford or convince someone to lend him. Racing wasn't glamorous for Byrne, it was survival. When Ayrton Senna arrived in Europe, he came with talent too, but also with financial support, polish, and an instinctive understanding of how to navigate power structures. Byrne noticed the difference immediately. The rivalry between them wasn't just about lap times, it was about access. They met repeatedly on track, and whenever they did, sparks flew. Tommy Byrne, British Formula 3, 1982. British Formula 3 in 1982 was the hardest junior championship in Europe, a direct gateway to Formula 1 where failure usually meant the end of a career.
Tommy won the championship. While Senna studied how Byrne won it seemingly without much effort, he also won it whilst doing 3 F1 races.
A result that deeply unsettled the paddock hierarchy. While Senna was calculated, political, and precise, Byrne was uncompromising, outspoken, and emotionally driven, fast without apology. Formula One valued control as much as speed, and Byrne's 1982 dominance made that tension impossible to ignore. Byrne's performances forced comparisons no one wanted to make, especially so early in Senna's rise. His raw pace came without polish, without diplomacy, and without a safety net. In a sport built on hierarchy and narrative, that made him difficult to manage. Speed alone was not enough, and Byrne had too much of it. The worst possible opportunity. Byrne's Formula One debut came with the Theodore team in 1982, one of the weakest operations on the grid. The car was slow, underdeveloped, and barely reliable enough to survive a race distance. It was not a platform to prove brilliance, it was a trap. Byrne tried to force speed out of it anyway. He pushed beyond the car's limits, often paying the price. He failed to qualify for 3 races and started only 2. The frustration was overwhelming. According to multiple accounts, his temper boiled over, culminating in a confrontation with the team's chief engineer, a moment that would quietly poison his reputation. In Formula One, mistakes can be forgiven. Attitude rarely is, but the real turning point came later that same year. The McLaren test that changed everything. As British Formula 3 champion, Byrne earned what should have been his golden ticket, a test with McLaren at Silverstone. This was the same team running Niki Lauda and John Watson, the same organisation that would soon dominate the sport. The test should have rewritten his future. Instead, it revealed Formula One's unspoken rules. McLaren reportedly detuned the engine for Byrne. Even so, his lap times stunned the garage. Engineers noticed. Drivers paid attention. The speed was undeniable. Then Ron Dennis sat down with him. The conversation drifted away from lap times and data toward background, family, upbringing, polish. Byrne answered honestly. Working class, rough edges intact, no interest in pretending to be something he wasn't. That was the moment the door closed. Byrne didn't fail the test on track. He failed it socially. Formula One didn't just want champions, it wanted ambassadors, men who could be controlled, marketed, and trusted to play the game. Byrne had no interest in playing anything. The speed scared them. The man didn't fit. A career without a home. With Formula One gone, Byrne raced wherever opportunity appeared. He moved to the United States, where he found success in the American Racing Series. He won races. He proved again and again that the speed never left him. But something else had changed. The structure that Formula One forces upon drivers, discipline, routine, limits, was gone. Byrne thrived on chaos when it served his driving, but chaos without boundaries began to consume him. Later, he raced in Mexican Formula 3, a wild, barely regulated environment where danger extended far beyond the track. Wealthy team owners, minimal oversight, and excessive lifestyles defined the paddock. It was there that Byrne's story took its darkest turn, the night that ended everything. In 1994, Byrne was racing for a millionaire team owner known for excess and instability. One night, at a party that spiraled completely out of control, the team boss ran through his house naked, fired a gun, and shot at Byrne, missing him twice. It wasn't a metaphor, it wasn't exaggeration, it was real. In that moment, something snapped into clarity. Byrne realized that the environment surrounding his racing life was far more dangerous than the sport itself. Not because of crashes, because of people. He walked away from professional racing for good. Not because he lost his speed, not because he lacked ability, but because he finally understood the cost of staying, the man who survived himself. Tommy Byrne is often described as a tragedy, the greatest driver who never was. But that framing misses the point. Tragedies end in destruction. Byrne survived. Today he is a respected high-performance driving instructor in the United States. He teaches car control, racecraft, and instinct, the very qualities that once terrified rivals and unsettled Formula One insiders. His autobiography, and later the documentary Crash and Burn, finally told his story honestly. No polish, no myth-making, no excuses. When asked if he regrets his career, Byrne's answer is brutally direct. He says his life wasn't terrible, he just missed out on about $100 million. And if he could change one thing, be born rich. It's a line delivered half-jokingly and completely seriously, what Tommy Byrne really proved. The story of Tommy Byrne isn't about bad luck alone. It's about class barriers, politics, and the uncomfortable truth that Formula One has never been a pure meritocracy. Speed gets you noticed. Everything else decides whether you stay. Some drivers win championships, others expose the system that decides who is allowed to compete for them. Tommy Byrne did the latter, and that may be his greatest legacy. Byrne's talent was never in doubt. It was feared. Engineers spoke about it quietly, almost cautiously, while team managers watched closely and then looked away. Raw speed has always made Formula One uncomfortable when it doesn't arrive in the right packaging, when it doesn't come with the correct accent, the right passport, or sponsors already waiting in the wings. The sport claims to reward excellence, but in practice it prefers brilliance that can be managed. Tommy Byrne could not be. He raced as someone with nothing to lose because that was the truth of his position. There was no safety net beneath him, no family wealth to soften mistakes, no political buffer to absorb risk. Every lap was survival as much as competition, every overtake an assertion that hunger can be more powerful than entitlement. That kind of intensity unsettled the paddock, and rather than adapt to it, the system slowly closed its doors. Formula One has always favored clean narratives, champions crowned, records neatly archived, careers that fit comfortably into highlight reels. Byrne's story refused that order. It remained messy, unresolved, and incomplete. And that discomfort is precisely why it matters. His career forces an honest reckoning with how many drivers were just as fast, just as capable, and yet never truly seen. Talent, his story makes clear, is necessary but never sufficient. Money smooths the road, connections widen it, and timing decides whether the gate opens at all. Byrne reached that gate and kicked at it, exposing the machinery behind it, and for that the doors were bolted shut. Still, he kept driving, kept teaching, and kept winning in quieter ways. Not trophies, but respect. Not fame, but truth. Tommy Byrne did not fail Formula One. Formula One failed to know what to do with him. And in revealing that failure so starkly, he left behind something rarer than a championship: clarity. At Apex Media, we decode the legends and the lost champions of motorsport history. Subscribe for the stories that Formula One never wanted you to hear.